works, it's very accurate, I'm not. Nasty words giving me the look under the eyebrows. That's too long, mate. Okay. I think that if it's not up there, it should be. And if I don't tell you, you should know it already. Huh? All right. There's 3 verses here. So we've heard these verses over and over and again, and I guess a lot of us have had, the guys who've got up given talks have had different perspectives on this. It's all about gates. But there's something else that I wanted to look at here, which I talked to somebody about yesterday, which was really quite interesting. That you're never too old to learn, even if your brain says that's not true. But there's, in Ephesians chapter 1, and if you go hunting for this in your Bible and just cross-reference it to the concordance, you won't get it. You won't find what is actually here because it's only in the actual Greek text. And we've been talking about gates, gateways. There's some interesting things. I don't know whether anybody knows what the Greek word for gate is. No? It's pylon. Isn't that amazing? It's a pylon. What do we associate with pylons? Power pylons and sticks in the ground with flags on them, and you know, they're very prominent, and they're in a sense symbols of power. But it's just the Greek word for a gate. It's a pylon. Now that's got little to do with what I wanted to say here in Ephesians chapter 1 in verse 17, it says, "The God of our Lord Jesus Christ, Father of glory, may give unto you the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him, the eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of his calling, and what the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints, and what is the exceeding greatness of his power to usward who believe according to the working of his mighty power." Verse 18 is the key to this, because it essentially talks about our gate, the gate that's within us. And in the Greek, and you can even in the Greek interlinear, the actual verse, and I looked at this today and checked it out, and there's a little bit of a contradiction here, but the actual Greek, where it says, the eyes of your understanding being enlightened, uses a completely different word in that English translation when you go back to the Strong's Concordance than what is actually in the Greek. The Greek really says that it's the eyes of your heart that it's being enlightened. So the heart is the gateway to the soul. And what we're seeing in the original Greek, and this is, you go back and look at these things, this is the actual Textus Receptus, which is what the King James is translated from. And so these words strung together means that we need to understand with our heart, with the emotions, we need to be emotionally involved with God. It's not the mind thing necessarily. We think we make all of our decisions with the mind, but the mind that's what outflows. You know, we speak with our mind and it gets us into a fair bit of trouble sometimes. But the whole thing that we're looking at here is that God, through his word, I see myself, and I don't know how many others see the same sort of thing. I see that the Bible is a work of art. It's a tremendous work of art because there are so many word pictures in the Bible that teach us things. I mean, the whole idea about the gate, and we look at those verses in Isaiah 26 and verse 2, it says, "Open ye the gates, that the righteous nation which keeps the truth may enter in." What does that do to your mind? What do you see when you read that? And you picture the gates, and the gates are flung open, and there's this nation, there's a multitude of people marching through these gates. And you sit there and you think, and you do that with your mind, in your mind's eye, you see that and you say, I'm in the middle of that. I'm there. What's success? And this is all tied up with this. What is success? Now think about that for a moment. You say, well, what's success? Okay, well, I got a promotion in my job, the whole thing. Okay, I'll tell you what success is. Well done, good and faithful servant. That's success. That's being promoted from the natural to the spiritual. When you meet the Lord in the air, and those words are spoken to you, you've gone through the gate. Everything that you've done in this life, if it builds to that, and you've built this relationship with the Lord, and it's not just I know God. It's not just the decision, it's not just a mechanical decision to make, but it's an involvement. It's a love story. We heard the gifts today. When I was there, I loved you. All the contradictions that came against Jesus, and through it all, he said, what? I love you. And there's a mixture of the two loves. There's agape and there's phileo. Phileo is the brotherly love. Agape is the love, the deep love of the heart. This is where Jesus wants to go. He wants to be there. He wants to be in your heart. He wants to be involved in the gateway to your soul, not the gateway to your flesh, because the flesh is corruptible and it's going to pass away, and we're going to receive a new body, an incorruptible one. But Jesus wants to be involved in the incorruptible part of our being, the soul, the part that Jesus died for. The part that Jesus is looking for, the part that Jesus is looking to meet in the air is the soul. When we will receive our new bodies, our righteous bodies, and we pass into the eternities. You make that, you hear those words, well done, good and faithful servant. You've passed from the mortal to the immortal. You've gone through the gate. You've gone through the celebratory pylons. The gates are thrown wide open and you've gone in there. There's no going back. You can't stand there and look at this and say, oh, I don't like it. I think I'll go back. Dumb decision. And that's a mind decision. That's not a heart decision. That's not a soul decision. We all know right from wrong. A few years ago we had one of the most notorious gang members in Fresno actually living with us. He got filled with the Spirit, he got changed, but he couldn't let go of the stubbornness that was in him. And but I had several conversations with him, like more than several, and I said to him one day, I said, do you guys actually know the difference between right and wrong? And he said, of course we do. We know right and wrong. We know we're doing the wrong thing. And I said, but that's all we know. We know the wrong thing, but we know it's wrong. We know it's wrong. So their heart was involved in wrong things. They loved the life. Well, they sort of did and didn't. I'm sure a lot of people who get involved in drugs and alcohol and all that sort of thing don't actually love their lives. In fact, they kind of hate themselves in a sense. They're punishing themselves for something, or looking for something they can't find. It's only when you get filled with the Holy Spirit that you found it. And it becomes a heart issue. It doesn't become a mind issue. You make, in the flesh, you make a decision. So, this sounds good. Brother Pete, in the basement of the St. John's Cathedral, And I got up and I said, my name's David, I'm not a drug addict, I'm not an alcoholic, I'm just here to tell you there's a better way, Jesus Christ. He responded, the others wanted to kill me. But he made the right decision with his mind, and God changed his heart. And God came into his heart, opened up the gate of his soul, and came into his heart and took him and reshaped him and made him the man he is today. He can meet the Lord in the air. Many of us have not had those kinds of lives. We've had other trials in our lives. We've been abused by people. We've been raised in loveless households. The damage is just as bad. And in some respects, it's worse in some respects because it's more damaging because it doesn't, you don't sort of stagger around the streets and fall down and, you're not drunk like that, but you are damaged. Your heart is damaged. It's not your mind, it's your heart. Your heart actually has synapses. And your heart is actually involved in the decision-making processes that you make. So when you say, well, I felt in my heart this was wrong, you may not be wrong about that feeling. I feel something's not right. I mean, how many of us have had those feelings? I just feel this wasn't the right situation, and it's borne out in later activities or whatever happens in your life, but something's wrong. Are you going to allow the Lord through the gate of your soul? Are you going to allow him in there and allow him to come in and mend the damage to your heart? Are you going to allow him to heal you in ways that the world doesn't know about, has no idea? And it's a very private thing because you really, I've been around for a day or two and I've seen stuff and I've talked about stuff, and sometimes people will say things and I immediately understand what's happening. I've had conversations with people here about those kinds of things, and the damage. Had a conversation with, can I use your name? Not you, Alice. She got up and gave a testimony. She was never spanked as a child. And he said, like, well, that's pretty cool. Never spanked. Well, that's good. But I don't think many of us understand how much damage that does, because it really is telling the child the parents don't care, that there's no consequences to bad actions, that there's a reversal of blame goes on, where I've done the wrong thing, I've made my parents feel bad. No, your parents are supposed to make you feel bad. I'm sorry, you get it right. To make you feel bad about that. And then there's contrition, and there's a bit of guilt. And guilt's not a bad thing if it's applied in the right way. It's when it's constantly applied and constantly applied and constantly applied that it becomes a major problem in people's lives. It's heart damaging. You're having heart attacks all the time. Oh, woe is me. Why am I like this? Why am I like this? You never know within yourself sometimes why you're like you are, but you've had heart damage, of cardiac arrest. And we struggle with these things even in the Lord because we don't know how to deal with them, because we haven't opened the gate of our heart, we haven't opened that up to the Lord and said, what's wrong with me? Show me. Reveal to me where the damage is, Lord. I want to know. I need some help. I want to go through that gate. I want to be there. I want to hear those words, the words of success. Well done, good and faithful servant. Jesus Christ wants to have a love affair with you. You can't do that if you keep the doors and the gates and the pylons of your hearts closed. He can only do it when they're open. He can only do it if you allow, and I'm as guilty as anybody else. That's it, that's enough, that's it. Stop. Haven't finished, I've got a few more words here, so forgive me. It's in your heart to do that. It's so important that we understand that process, that for quite some time in the Lord, I just felt like my heart was like a rock, because I'd grown up in a family that didn't know how to express love and care and kindness and just love in general. And so I grew up in a very isolated sort of a situation. And I've had to crack the rock, so to speak. I've had to break the rock. And it took time. And I knew it was taking time. And every now and again I would look into my heart and say, okay, what's going on? Well, it's not as black as it used to be. It's a little bit grey. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, I've broken the shell. I can see light pouring out of it. This is in my mind's eye. It's amazing. I could actually see this in my mind's eye, that the shell of my heart, the rock that was around it, was cracked, and there's this bright light shining out of it. And it was what they say, cathartic experience when it was happening. It was like, wow, it's there. It really is there. And there'd be times when it sort of all closed up again. I said, mend it. No, don't do that. I cry during hymns these days. Isn't that silly? But it's not silly. I hear a testimony and talk to somebody about it, and I can't keep talking about it because I want to cry about it, because my heart's involved in it. I've opened up the gate of my heart. Am I all the way there? I don't know, maybe that's for other people to judge, but I feel in my heart that I've had a measure of success in opening up the gate of my heart and opening it up to the Lord, because that's where He wants to be. And if He's there, then you can read these for homework. We've heard them during the talks, Revelation 21, 22 to 25 and 22 to 11 through 14. If you read those verses, it's all about going through the gates. It's all about, well done, good and faithful servant. It's all about the nations. And allow your mind to paint the picture of you being in the middle of all of that, where you ought to be. Jesus didn't die for you to miss out. He died for you to be successful. Praise the Lord. And all the people said, amen.